everyone, and welcome to my Baffin Island backpacking expedition in the Arctic. I'm in Ottawa, Canada, which is the gateway to Nunavut. Baffin Island is located in the territory of Nunavut. So I'm about to continue my flight to get there tomorrow. Baffin Island is one of the most remote and hardest places to reach in Canada. In fact, it takes me 4 flights to get here. 2 days ago I flew from San Francisco to Vancouver, and then Vancouver to Ottawa, and today I flew from Ottawa to Iqaluit, the capital of Nunavut, and now I'm about to continue on to the small Inuit hamlet of Pangnirtung. Well, I've arrived in Pangnirtung, and I'm currently standing outside of the Parks Canada office here. Earlier I had my orientation, and the park staff helped me prepare for polar bear encounters, bad weather, as well as river crossings. So tomorrow will be time to head into the park. Here's the hotel where I stayed at last night in Pangnirtung. Looking this way, that's Pangnirtung Fjord, the gateway to the park, Auyuittuq National Park in Canada. Just heading down the dock, I see Peter in his boat for a shuttle ride. Right here. I'm here with Peter. He is giving us a ride to the park, our captain. Peter, how long does the ride take, boat ride take to get in?
Just under an hour. There's an entrance point. Drop-off point we call it, that's where you start walking.
And have you been taking a lot of visitors this year?
No, it's been very slow. Probably 4 groups, that's it.
Wow.
Due to COVID closures this winter and last year, it just opened in August, so people are scrambling to try and get in, but having a hard time. So very low number of visitors this year.
There goes Peter. We are all alone in Auyuittuq National Park. Wow, this place is spectacular. Peter has dropped us off here at a place called Overlord West up Pangnirtung Fjord. And we're going to begin our hike up Akshayuk Pass. It's going to be about 63 miles from south to north. Now generally the route is done from north to south for through hikers, but we're starting at the southern end due to circumstances. And yeah, I just cannot wait to get started. This is so beautiful. And our hike has officially begun. We are walking from Overlord West toward Ulu Shelter. This has been very interesting terrain walking along the fjord. This is a high tide area we're walking through. Some nice easy sand, but a lot of it is just crossing over rocks and streams. So looking across the fjord, I can see the Overlord East shelter, and then a beautiful glacier up there at the top. As many of you know, I absolutely love hiking in the Arctic. I love the cold, and this place is just breathtaking. The wind has really picked up. That's no surprise, because Akshayuk Pass is known for just howling winds blowing through it. We have left the fjord behind, and now these are the lower braids of the Weasel River. There's some very pretty red colors through here. We have spotted the Ulu shelter just ahead. We're gonna go check it out and maybe set up camp here for the night. Here's the view at camp, a waterfall up there, very pretty. And just walking in to the Ulu shelter area. There is the shelter. And just past it, the outhouse. Just boiling some water for dinner here on night one. Well, day one of our Baffin Island trip has come to an end. And we're staying tonight at the Ulu shelter. It is raining outside, so we went ahead and we're just gonna sleep in the shelter. They're of course only meant for emergencies, but I think rain would qualify for a good reason to sleep inside the shelter. Just gonna go in for the evening. As you can see, beautiful peaks behind us. Fog rolling in, raining right now, but that's the Arctic. All right, good night from day one. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day two of the Baffin Island trip. It pretty much rained off and on all night. It was quite windy out. We've woken up and it is cloudy, but it's not raining right now. Could rain anytime though. So we're gonna pack up and get on the trail. Before we pack up, let me give you a little tour for sleeping quarters in here. See places on the floor there for a couple beds, and a little elevated area for our backpacks and supplies. So I just wanted to take a moment before we head out and talk about polar bears. Polar bears are very uncommon in Auyuittuq National Park. In fact, there's been only 5 bears sighted in the last 21 years here in the park. They're most likely to be spotted along the coastal regions, but mainly at the end of North Pangnirtung Fjord, which is where our hike is going to end. So that's going to be the most likely area to run into one. I see some Canada geese up ahead. It's very windy today. It's going to be a hard day of hiking, no doubt. We have a little over 8 miles to do today. You can start to see some of the valley and glaciers we're heading towards. We're now walking right next to the Weasel River, beginning to take shape here. As we started hiking next to the Weasel River, there's just a fierce headwind blowing towards us. The sun has made its first appearance today. Good timing. Help warm us up. There's quite an impressive background peak there. Really stands out between the front mountains. There are several glaciers visible up above the peaks, and we've really been blessed with good visibility these first 2 days. Many times all of these mountains could be fogged or clouded in, but we can see everything. Just walking down toward the river, trying to search for some better terrain. We've been crossing bogs for the last 20 minutes. Another glacier has just become visible right there. Just watching some Canada geese there right on the riverbank. Some pretty red colors on the tundra. We are passing by a glacier right now on the left side. Here's a spring that's bubbling up. Kind of interesting. As we continue looking ahead, I believe on the right side, that peak, which is kind of obscured by clouds at the top, is Mount Odin, which is the highest peak on Baffin Island. I am just in total awe at some of the scenery we're seeing here. Up ahead here, there's 2 glaciers and a waterfall in the middle of them. Looking around at the terrain ahead as we head for Crater Lake. Look at this mountain. And looking back, more glaciers and major peaks visible. So I haven't talked much about today's route here on day 2, but we started, of course, at Oulu, and we are headed for Windy Lake. The highlight of the day may be having our first ever view of Mount Thor. Well, for the first time today, I've taken off my pack. We're a little over halfway to where we're going for today. And let me show you, this is just an incredible spot. We're taking a lunch break here. Let me show you what it looks like. So looking this way, this is the side of Crater Lake. But going around here where we're taking a break, this view of the valley we just passed through, it's just incredible. We have been hiking up a giant hill of sand, but there's cairns to mark the way. We're working our way around Crater Lake here. So this will be our final view looking back that way where we came from. And now, continuing kind of straight toward the giant mountain in the distance, Mount Odin. This has been a challenging climb. And this is leading me right to an overlook of Crater Lake. This will be my first view of it. Wow. Oh, it's quite big. Look ahead, some glaciers, some waterfalls going into the lake. Let's take a closer look at those glaciers and waterfalls dropping down into the lake. I would say this is kind of the first trail we picked up on the trip above Crater Lake. It's clearly defined. Looks like we're gonna get a view of what lies ahead here. See ahead how the valley makes a wide turn. Also ahead, that's our first really good view of Schwarzenbach Falls. This is the Weasel River below Crater Lake. Just walked over to take a look at it as it rushes through this canyon. Pretty cool. Here on this backpacking route, the biggest challenge is the river crossings. This right here is the Crater Lake outflow, which is supposedly our first major challenge or river crossing. So we're just kind of walking along the river, looking for, see if there's a way to cross without changing shoes. If not, we will have to change our shoes and cross that way, directly through it. I'm testing out the river crossing first before doing it with my backpack. Well, we completed crossing the Crater Lake outflow. It was a lot harder than anticipated. We had to have respect for these river crossings. They're very challenging. Right up there in the middle, there's another glacier. We are seeing so many glaciers, I'm starting to lose count of them. Now, why can't all the walking terrain be this easy? The clouds have almost cleared from Mount Odin. Would love to see the very top of that mountain. Up ahead, We are heading toward Schwarzenbach Falls and River. You can see it in the distance. That's going to be another major river crossing. But wow, the waterfall is spectacular. This has been quite the challenging section to down climb. Take it very slowly here. As I've gotten down from that steep area, we now have our first view of Mount Thor. And wow, it is impressive. As we continue walking next to the Weasel River, more and more of Mount Thor is becoming visible. The sun is shining on the top, but it's late in the day, so it's gonna soon be in full shadow. Baby goose right here. This right here was a spot I was waiting to get to. This sign marks where we are crossing the Arctic Circle. Quite a special spot. This is the Schwarzenbach River, the second major river crossing. Water level looks quite high and a lot of rapids. Up there, Schwarzenbach Falls. Look at the top, twin waterfalls at the top. And then cascades heading down at the bottom. This river is just raging too much. We may not be able to cross it until the morning. We're gonna check a few more spots, but sometimes you have to wait until the next day to cross when water flow is a lot less. Hey everyone, it's the evening of day 2. We had to set up camp on this side of Schwarzenbach River. Because we could not cross. The flow was too heavy, so we're going to try to cross it in the morning. I'm sure the flow will be down greatly. So we just set up our tent. We have an awesome view of Mount Thor from right here where we're camping. It's late. We just had dinner, so I'm going to go to bed now. Talk to everyone in the morning. The sun has just popped up over the mountains. Should be quite a warm day today. So let's take one last look around camp. Schwarzenbach Falls. And then coming around to this giant mountain, which is finally free of clouds and fog. Can see it all. And then Mount Thor. I'm always going to remember camping at this spot. So incredible. So we're packing up camp right now, and I just wanted to give a short overview of what's going to happen today. We're going to cross Schwarzenbach River, and then we're going to be hiking along some glacial moraines past Windy Lake, and then our destination for today will be the base of Mount Thor. So we're going to be going to Thor Camp. And what a perfect day to be hiking to the base of Mount Thor. This will likely be the best weather of our entire trip. And I cannot wait to see the scenery and see Mount Thor as it grows ever closer to us. So I'm checking the water flow at the Schwarzenbach River at the same place we did not cross yesterday. And the water level is lower. I do feel safe crossing it now. But I'm not sure if we'll cross here or try to find a different spot downstream, which is even easier. We're gonna cross right about here. We made it across the Schwarzenbach River, but that was considerably harder than yesterday's crossing of the Crater Lake outflow. I think this is our only major river crossing for today, so we're gonna not have to worry about any more until tomorrow. So from right here, Schwarzenbach Falls, you can really see all of it, both sides of the top waterfalls, and the left one is huge, which you couldn't tell earlier. So we're just crossing through an area. This is all fairly fresh rockfall. Happened probably not too long ago. Looking across the Weasel River from right here, we can see the Windy Lake Shelter. It's on the opposite side of the river. It's seldom used because very few people hike on that side, and if they do, it's usually by mistake. Just ahead, we have a huge moraine we're gonna have to climb up. This will no doubt be some challenging terrain. Climbing this moraine is super tough, and it's gonna get harder. What I've noticed about the moraines is that you got to watch every step. The rocks are always shifting in the ground. Even big rocks shift even if they look stable. So I'm kind of learning as I go what it's like to walk on these moraines. At the top of the first moraine, we arrived at Windy Lake. It's quite pretty looking at it from above. Our map shows that we got to work our way around to the left from here, so we're going to try that. And this is the view looking back from this viewpoint of Windy Lake, looking back towards where we came from. Notice the glaciers up high. Such a pretty valley. As we head down this moraine, what's really helping is cairns set up by past hikers or by the Park Service, whoever did it, kind of leading the way right on down. Walked right down to the shoreline of Windy Lake. The water draining into Windy Lake is coming from that glacier, which is visible right there. Well, now we're gonna need to cross this creek that feeds Windy Lake. Should be fun, looks like it's easy. And we made it across. It wasn't too difficult. Didn't even need to use my hiking poles. Just climbed up this giant sand dune, totally out of breath, and got a little bit more to do. I love this view, looking back at Windy Lake. This view right here of the Weasel River, Mount Thor, and the glaciers, absolutely stunning. I am in total awe at this viewpoint. This is just looking to my right at taking a closer look at this peak on the right side and the glacier in the middle there. So we finally got down from that moraine. Should be a lot easier going the rest of the way to Thor. Check out these incredible peaks we're passing by on the left side. Wanted to make sure to get a close-up of this glacier before we pass it by. It's amazing how close we are getting to the base of Mount Thor. We're seeing footprints here. Looks like it could be maybe a fox. It's nice to have a trail while walking along these cliffs. As we get very close to the base of Mount Thor now, I just want to say I feel incredibly blessed to have had such nice weather today. It was 57 degrees out, which is quite warm for the Arctic. It was sunny all day. And my biggest fear going into this trip was that Mount Thor would be obscured by clouds and fog. The fog and clouds can cover these mountains for weeks at a time sometimes. You just don't know up here in the far north. So yeah, what a blessing. Very happy. As we pass by the face of Mount Thor, there's some other major peaks becoming visible, such as Mount Northumbria, and even way in the distance. The Weasel River is really raging through here. That mountain way in the distance continues to captivate me. Also, we can see Thor shelter from here. It's a little over a mile away. A little bit of a tricky stream crossing here coming down from that glacier. This has been a really long, hard day of hiking. We're now 1 mile from Thor shelter, and it is past 8 o'clock in the evening. The end is in sight for today. There is Thor shelter just ahead. And it's after 9 o'clock p.m. pulling into Thor shelter. That was a 10-hour day of hiking. Nice to be here. Hey everyone, well, as you can see, we are wrapping up day 3 by sleeping in the shelter. We got here late at night after dark, so that it was easiest just to set up in here and go to sleep for the night. But what an amazing but challenging day we had. Those moraines that we had to go up and down, very, very hard. But the scenery, well worth it. Some of the best I've ever seen in my life. All right, talk to you tomorrow. It's 3:30 in the morning, day 4. I just wanted to show you what sunrise looks like here at Thor Shelter. Now back to bed. Good morning everyone, it's day 4. We're here at the Thor Shelter. We're waiting for the 8:45 a.m. weather broadcast. On Baffin Island, really the best fuel to use for backpacking is white gas. So I actually had to bring a brand new stove and brand new fuel container with me on the trip because that was all I could really bring on the airplane. So I'm going to be using this stuff for this trip, and then I'm going to have to leave it behind. Not going to be able to take it home because it would require extensive cleaning, and I don't even know if I could get that right. So this stove, I think it's a Whisper Light, and the fuel bottle are just for this trip. So I just wanted to take a minute and explain what we're doing here on day 4. As you can see, we're in the Thor Shelter. Today we're not going to be hiking, it is a rest day. For today we're just going to enjoy the Mount Thor area. There's still good visibility all around us, although it is cold, it's windy, the clouds are in, but we can still see everything clearly. There's no fog right now. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the sights and sounds around camp.
When summer arrives in the Arctic, the sun circles the sky. Ice melts from the sea, and Baffin Island comes to life. The fjords, icebergs float toward the shore. In this land that the Inuits have treasured forevermore. As polar nights give way to the midnight sun, come to Baffin Island, the land that never melts. By the Weasel River, where foxes dwell. Pass by Mount Thor on the way to Summit Lake. See glaciers and moraines left in their wake. Cross valleys of bogs and sandy riverbanks with impressive waterfalls that captivate.
I've just been kind of sitting here on the shoreline of the Weasel River, enjoying this view at the base of Mount Thor, realizing just how special it is. It took so much effort and planning to get out here, and I managed to make it to Mount Thor. So happy about that. And you know, something interesting is that we are the first group to backpack here in the park and see Mount Thor in the last 2 years. Auyuittuq National Park was closed for 18 months, and it just recently reopened about 3 weeks ago. So in that time frame, since September of 2019, there's been no backpacking groups in the park. We are the first, and we're actually the only backpackers. We have this entire park to ourselves right now. This is truly a special place, and I'm thankful for my time here. So I just wanted to wrap up day 4 by saying good night. I'm about to eat dinner and then get to bed early. and the Arctic weather has really returned. The wind never stopped blowing all day. It's totally freezing outside. I'm prepared for that, of course, but I wish it was a little warmer. But regardless, the hike must go on. See you in the morning, everyone. So it is 11 o'clock at night, and I woke up. The wind is quite fierce. I've never heard or experienced wind quite this strong. But this is the Arctic, and this is what Akshayuk Pass is known for, strong winds. Let me see if I can go outside and show you a little bit about what it is like out there. Let's go outside into this craziness. Oh my. It's even raining a little bit. Wow. This is such strong wind with rain pushing into my face. As I said, this is the Arctic. Oh my. Can you believe that it is summertime? It's August. And this is the weather here in the Arctic. Wow. I don't think I'll ever forget this. Well, it's now 4 o'clock in the morning of day 5. We've woken up to heavy rain and continued winds. Doing a 8 o'clock in the morning weather check here outside of Thor shelter. It's not raining right now. The wind is very, very strong. Let's see how we have some fog in the valley. Some fog and clouds blowing over Thor. Valley. Yeah, definitely caught in a storm here. I think I could hike in this weather if I need to. So it's day 5, about 11 o'clock in the morning. We're going to try to get to Half Hour Creek. We probably can't cross it, but we're going to check it anyway and at least camp there. It remains very windy outside, but no rain at the moment. It is cold though. So leaving Thor shelter, you can see I'm very bundled up. I actually don't feel the cold except for at my mouth and face, but we're gonna press on. It's probably one of the greatest challenges of my life is trying to get through this, but we can't sleep in the Thor shelter forever. We have to keep going. And if it's not raining, we should not stay put. And I am very well prepared for the Arctic with clothing. So here we go. I'm just watching as we're climbing out of the valley. Fog is blowing in here below Mount Thor, coming down from the Forkbeard Glacier. It's really moving fast, showing how high the winds are. So the next 1.5 miles of trail has the greatest rockfall danger along the entire route. so we need to move rapidly through this section. Definitely see quite a bit of rockfall through here. This looks older. Definitely some major rockfall has occurred through here. Boulders everywhere. We're gonna keep moving fast. Wow, we gotta climb down this mass of landslide boulders. A little bit crazy here. We got to be careful, especially with this wind. As you can see over there, there are two waterfalls coming down from the Forkbeard Glacier. Let's take a closer look at those two. Very beautiful with the fog right above them. And the mountain there that we're heading towards is Breidablik Peak. That's another very well-known, popular mountain in this area. If you don't like freezing, cold weather, fierce blowing winds, then Baffin Island and the Arctic is not for you. Yes, this is very challenging, but I'm still very happy to be out here, surrounded by this beauty. This is looking on my left side. Notice the waterfall on the right. But at the very top, I'll zoom in here, you can see why there is such serious rockfall danger in this area. There's been an off and on trail through the rockfall section and some rock cairns, like you see on the left, almost through this biggest danger zone. A little bit of sun is shining on Breidablik Peak right now. Surprised to see any sign of the sun today. Looking back at Mount Thor, notice how the perspective of Mount Thor changes as you pass it by and continue north. The mountain continually looks different from every angle, which is neat. And there's another pretty waterfall coming down on our side of the valley. The trail is finally bringing us back down to the Weasel River. Will be nice to hike by it again. So the two big mountains visible for today, of course, Breidablik Peak and Mount Thor. The peaks along the left side of the trail are impressive as well. The next three can all be seen. They're not hidden by clouds right now. Most of Thor is now visible once again. You can see almost the entire impressive mountain. Very beautiful lighting right now. Pretty much all of Mount Thor is visible. The sun is on my face. That was the first time I felt the sun all day. Felt good even just for a moment out here. So we're coming down off an area of wet bogs and heading toward a glacial moraine. Now somewhere in that moraine is Half Hour Creek, which will probably stop our progress for the day, unless by some miracle we can get across in the afternoon. So looking up there, that's a waterfall flowing that is Half Hour Creek. If that's any indication, that flow we won't be crossing today. We'll find out more soon. Found some caribou antlers here. Now, caribou used to use this travel corridor. Now they're very seldom, if ever, seen going through Akshayuk Pass, but proof that they were here at one time. The Breidablik Peak Glacier is seen very clearly at the top left there. There's a pretty good trail that winds up the moraine heading for the creek. Walking toward Half Hour Creek. Waterfall at the top, it flows on down. About to find out if by some miracle we can cross it today. So I tested out a couple spots here at Half Hour Creek, and it was not safe to cross. I need the water level to drop. And river crossings are, of course, the most dangerous part of visiting Auyuittuq National Park. Lives have been lost because people cross rivers when they shouldn't have. So we're gonna play it very safe. I am gonna check upstream just to make sure there's nothing. We are way upstream now. Here's another river split. We're gonna keep looking. So we went way up the creek. Took a long time checking everything out. We may have found a spot where we can cross, where the creek braids into many sections. So we're gonna take our packs up there and see if we can do it. Well, I was crossing a very small section of creek. Nothing scary or risky. I'll show it to you on the video here. But a rock gave way and it caused me to slip with my backpack and I fell in. Not sure if you could see, my down jacket is all wet. Some of my stuff got wet in my backpack, but it's just one of those things that happens. Gotta pick it up and keep moving. Well, we got across Half Hour Creek, but we went way up looking for a place where it was braided everywhere. And we were probably fortunate that the water flow was not that high today. I don't think most groups would be able to cross it. Most groups need to wait overnight. So don't use this as an example of when to cross in the afternoon like we did. But we made it. We're moving on to Summit Lake. This is the very first view looking ahead towards Summit Lake. There are some high clouds, but it looks like the lake will be visible when we get up there. At this saddle, there's also a great view of Breidablik Peak. And the final view from the saddle, looking back toward Mount Thor. Just want to take in that view of the Weasel River because we won't be seeing the Weasel River much longer. It originates from Summit Lake. And I'm just continuing down this nice trail which leads down the moraine back to the valley. Something I just noticed after coming down from this moraine is that the wind is gone. It is perfectly still outside. I cannot believe how much the weather changes so drastically in short periods of time. As you can see right here, we're continuing our streak of not passing by any peak that we don't see in full. So yeah, the clouds do cover stuff ahead of us and behind us, but we've seen every single peak in full so far. Well, just 1 mile before reaching Summit Lake, some rain is coming down. So here on day 5, we are doing some rain hiking here in the Arctic. So I can finally see my first view of Summit Lake and the shelter just ahead. Also, the spot where Summit Lake flows out and becomes the Weasel River. It's late at night, raining a bit. Just want to capture Summit Lake. Who knows if it'll be fogged in tomorrow. Well, it is late at night, but we have arrived at Summit Lake Shelter. There's some camping spots, as well as a couple nice chairs. Hang out if it wasn't raining and enjoy the view. Here's the view from camp, Summit Lake, Thor. There's some huge peaks all around camp. Good morning, everyone. It's day 6. We are waking up at Summit Lake. A very cold night. There's snow on a lot of the mountains around us. Yesterday we had a very challenging hike from Thor to Summit Lake. And today we're going to begin heading from Summit Lake to Glacier Lake. Probably make it about halfway, as far as having to stop at one of the river crossings when it gets too challenging. We are going to be crossing moraines and walking along the shoreline of Summit Lake all day. We have reached Caribou Creek. This is our first major river crossing today. We're supposed to cross it down towards the mouth. Should be fairly easy to get across. So because this is one of the easier crossings here at Caribou Creek, I'm just going to go ahead and hold the camera while I cross to show you what it's like. Most of them are harder. Whoa! The sandbank gave way. So maybe I thought it'd be a little too easy. Okay, let's keep crossing Caribou Creek. See, very shallow water, no trouble at all. And final section right here. You can see the rocks at the bottom, that the water is shallow. Okay, Caribou Creek crossing is behind us. So we're gonna continue along Summit Lake, the shoreline. Supposed to be somewhat easy walking for a while. Here's a pretty blue pool of water right here. Peaks. I can see far across Summit Lake. Looks like this moraine hiking is gonna end here in just a little bit. Finally dropping down this moraine from the Caribou Glacier. Just looking at that peak across the lake, there's a glacier visible below it to the right. Can still see Thor and Breidablik in the distance. There's some fog in the middle of the two peaks. Very nice view directly across Summit Lake from that glacier. Found some nice walking terrain here, right next to the shoreline. Looking across Summit Lake, check out the red mountain there bit of color on the landscape. This is a bit of a hard day mentally for me. It's just so cold outside, and this section between Summit Lake and Glacier Lake, between the two shelters, is the hardest on the hike. So many river crossings. A lot of times walking along the lake, we're just choosing which terrain do we want to walk on. Like here, it's mud flats on the right and rocks on the left. So the terrain is constantly changing by the lake. Some very pretty rock there on the right as we work our way toward the end of Summit Lake. As we transition from Summit Lake to Glacier Lake, one of the things I'm looking forward to most is perhaps getting a view of Mount Asgard. Very special mountain here on Baffin Island. So you never know if you're going to be able to see it due to clouds and fog, but I'm hoping for the best. Pretty much seen everything I hope to see so far. Found some more caribou antlers here along the trail. Huge. And behind me is the Turner Glacier moraine. We're about to climb up it and begin our moraine hike as we draw closer to the Turner River. The fun of climbing a glacial moraine. Looking back at Summit Lake as I climbed the moraine, and actually picked up an use trail here with cairns. A lot easier way to climb it. Okay, I made it to the ridge. It's super windy, but I want to show you. On this side we can see Summit Lake. We pan around to this side, and that is Glacier Lake. The two lakes at the top of Akshayuk Pass. Here on the right side of Glacier Lake, that is Mount Battle, but it is fogged in. We're continuing down the trail this way. So the moraine, you can see there, I hiked down the far side and up right here in front of us. So I finally have a view of the Turner Glacier and the Turner River. So looking up at the Turner Glacier, that pointy peak in the background, that is Mount Loki. So it's 5 o'clock. We just stopped along the trail to cook our dinner. Boiling some water. So you're doing buffalo ranch chicken tonight? Just wanted to share this view looking out past Glacier Lake toward June Valley. The sun is shining out there on the mountains. Looks real pretty from here. This is our first glimpse of the Turner River. This is where it flows out into Glacier Lake. And there's no way that could be crossed in the evening. So we have set up camp right here beside the Turner River. The water flow was way too high to cross safely. So we're gonna get up super early in the morning and try to cross it. So that's about it for day 6. And I just wanted to send my love to Daria and Stefan. I know they won't see this till later, but I really miss them. It's very, very hard. Can't wait to get home to them. Good night, everyone. Hey everyone, and welcome to day 7. This has to rank among the craziest things I've had to do. We've woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's necessary because we're going to do some river crossings, starting with the Turner River. So light will be coming up here within the hour. The river levels will be at their lowest point for the day. And we're gonna cook a little breakfast to warm ourselves up, then pack things up. Sunrise far in the distance over Glacier Lake. It's 3:30 in the morning and we're now departing to head down to the river. So it's 4:15 a.m. and we just successfully crossed the Turner River. Now we're gonna race for the Norman River. We're hoping to cross that between 6 and 7, but we don't want to get stuck in between these two rivers tonight. This was the spot where we chose to cross, down near the bottom part of the river. It was only just below my knees when I crossed. Tell you, I'm glad that we are past the Turner River crossing. I think going into the trip, that crossing was my biggest fear. Just not knowing how high it would be, even early in the morning after seeing it last night, and just knowing how challenging it would be. So I'm glad we made it through it. I think I have my very first view of Mount Asgard back there in the clouds. It's nice we still have a clearly visible trail to follow, as we are going to be climbing moraines all day. That's important to get a good route. We are continuing to enjoy that sunrise out over behind June Valley. Also, Mount Battle is becoming more visible through the fog. We have a short break from the moraines as we cross these flats. Well, back to climbing another moraine, heading uphill. We are now on the Norman Glacier Moraine, almost to the Norman River. So we are on what is known as the hogback section, where you gotta hike along the top of the moraine for a while. So the sun has come out, and I need to film that because it's been such a rare occurrence these past couple of days. But I'm hiking along the hogback section. Feels good to get a little warm sunshine. Straight across from here I can see the Norman River as it flows into Glacier Lake. So we got to make our way down to these mud flats. Here's the first channel of the Norman River, probably the small one. Okay, across the smaller channel, and here looks like the main channel of the Norman flowing out into Glacier Lake. Okay, it's now 8 o'clock as I'm getting ready to cross the Norman River, and I just want to show you I do have hiking poles here with me. I don't usually use those on my hikes, but it's critical to have these for major river crossings, to feel ahead, to see how deep the water is, to see if it sinks down into quicksand, and also to stabilize yourself with the current. So these were critical, and I pull them out every time I do a river crossing. Asgard is becoming more visible there in the background. Some of the fog has moved away. So after crossing the Norman River, because we had gotten up so early and had hardly any sleep, we pitched our tent and took a nap for a few hours here at the shore of Glacier Lake. And now we're gonna resume hiking. Also just wanted to show you that Mount Battle is fully visible. Awesome mountain. And we are nearing the end of Glacier Lake. Climbing a very steep moraine once again. Hard work. As we're climbing this moraine, here's an unnamed lake that is formed inside the moraine. Over there you can see the Highway Glacier. From this spot, we can clearly see 3 glacial valleys. Looking straight ahead in the middle, that's the Turner Glacier with Mount Asgard behind it, hidden in clouds. Now straight in the middle there is the Norman Glacier, that valley. And then this way, the Highway Glacier. Very impressive. I just wanted to take a moment here to mention that I am at the high point of the entire route, of the Akshayuk Pass route. This is the highest spot on the trail, and from here on down through June Valley, it will be mostly downhill. Now this right here is interesting. I'm at the far end of Glacier Lake, dropping down from the moraine. Check out this wash. My map says that Glacier Lake actually used to drain down in this direction a long time ago, before it dried up and started draining the other way through Summit Lake. So it's kind of interesting walking along this ancient riverbed. So that riverbed walking was horrible. So we jumped up on the right side hill to try to get better terrain. It's been okay for a while. Just realized we're basically wrapping around Mount Battle, but also there's a number of other pretty mountains as we head down into the northern part of the pass. Behind me is the Rundle River, well known to be a very challenging and unsafe river to cross here in Auyuittuq National Park. So we're not going to even bother scouting out a spot because it is 6 o'clock at night and the water level is very high. So we're going to head down the opposite side of the Owl River into the Owl River Valley and see if it's possible to cross that tonight. So we climbed up one final moraine for this trip in order to get down to the other side of the Owl River and try to make our crossing. This has to be one of the biggest moraine boulders I've seen. Wow, the thing's huge. I'm just walking along the Owl River, seeing if there may be a place where we can cross tonight safely. So I just scouted the Owl River crossing here in the evening, and I was able to get across fairly easily. Just kind of like a puzzle, picking all the different channels to choose. But again, the river flow could be higher at times, so don't use this as an example that it's okay to cross in the evening if you're planning on coming on this hike. This has been such a wide, long crossing of the Owl River. I'm just showing the last few braids. There's no way I could capture everything on film going across such a long expanse of river. Almost to the final spot. This is the final big one right here. Finally arriving at the Glacier Lake shelter. Good morning, everyone. It is day 8 of the Baffin Island hike, and I've just woken up here at the Glacier Lake shelter area to a beautiful day with some sunshine. It's very cold outside still, but happy to have a little sun. And yesterday we completed the 2-day difficult crossing from Summit Lake to Glacier Lake shelters, dealing with those river crossings and trying to get the timing right. And today we are going to begin kind of a different portion of the hike. So there's going to be a lot of bogs, a lot of challenging walking, but surely some great scenery. Just listening to some Canada geese making a lot of noise there in the background. All right, time to eat breakfast and hit the trail. Okay, the day 8 hiking has begun, heading from the Glacier Lake shelter here at the Rundle River toward June Valley. Again, getting ready for lots of bogs. Such great visibility today as we hike down toward June Valley. You can see everything. To start out, I'm just trying to walk along the banks of the Owl River, which is right on the left there, and avoid the bogs as much as possible. Let me see if I can show what it's like to walk these bogs. Your foot sinks down every step, and sometimes it gets wet. Curiously, I am seeing a trail through parts of this area. I wasn't expecting any trails at all for the next 3 days. Some pretty red coloring on the ground. Look back at Asgard. No clouds blocking it. What's so amazing about it is the shape of the mountain with the flat top. It just really stands out and is impressive. I just realized, looking back, that the Turner Glacier is now visible directly below Mount Asgard. So the views keep on getting better. It's not all difficult ground out here. Some is really easy to walk on, like this.
When wildflowers blossom, polar bears coming from the sea. Snowy owls take to the sky, and narwhals swim out to feed. As polar nights give way to the midnight sun, come to Baffin Island, the land that never melts. Hide by the Weasel River, where Caribou dwell. Pass by Mount Asgard on the way to Summit Lake. See glaciers and moraines left in their wake. Cross valleys of bogs and sandy riverbanks with impressive waterfalls that captivate. There might be howling wind, rainstorms, and even snow. But when the clouds lift away, Baffin's beauty overflows. Come to Baffin Island, find a culture to love, made of singing, playing music and drums. From Iqaluit up to Pond Inland, a place of Arctic wonders to never forget. From the penny ice cap out to Baffin Bay, Greenland to the east, the North Pole not far away.
The terrain is now filled with a lot of boulders. Kind of walking right on the edge of two types of terrain. There's the boulder rocky section on the left and bogs on the right. So I definitely prefer the left. I've seen several of these circular holes in the ground, we'll call it, so far, and I'm not sure what these are or what causes this, but it's interesting. Crossing bogs right now, trying to find a way through without getting wet. Made it. Ground is just starting to get a little bit better, but doing hours of hiking through bogs on end is not easy. But it's still, I'm still happy to be out here. I'll take the bogs in exchange for the amazing scenery. After a couple hours of walking inland a little bit, we are now again following the Owl River and its many braids or channels. There's some orange-colored mud on the riverbank with what looks like lots of goose tracks. Walking across a wet sandy section, and it appears to be good terrain, but some of it just collapses like quicksand. So it's been a nuisance having my hiking boots sink way down all of a sudden without warning. Just standing next to the Owl River here, over halfway to June Valley. I had a little scare back there. I pulled a leg muscle when I tried to jump over a spot, and it was hurting for about 2 hours. The pain is going down now. This is just great walking terrain for this area. Some sand with some plants makes things really easy. I'm just now noticing that dramatic peak in the middle of the video. It looks extremely impressive. Looks like we'll have a perfect view of that from June Valley. So directly in the center there's a glacier that is extending down into this valley. I'm not sure if that glacier has a name. On my map it's labeled as part of the Penny Ice Cap, but it's neat to see a glacier coming into this valley. Hiking through what probably best described as some mini sand dunes through here. Really good hiking terrain. I could hike on this all day. There's just such great variety to the walking terrain out here. Here's another look at that dramatic June Valley peak. I'm also noticing on the left of the peak there is a huge waterfall flowing down. Such a beautiful spot. Walking right on the bank of the Owl River. What an unusual sight, unexpected. The Owl River is filled with huge boulders all of a sudden, stretching a ways down the river. Very interesting. Something interesting I'm just noticing about that peak for the first time. There's a split down the middle. It looks like it's two separate mountains. I can't wait to go around the bend and get an even clearer view. I just had to take a moment to comment with a appreciation for that dramatic peak that seen there in the background. That's as impressive as anything I've ever seen, including in Yosemite. I don't know how well it's going to come through on the video, but just walking by it in person, it just towers above and looks so dramatic and spectacular. I haven't talked about Mount Asgard lately, but it's still visible way there in the background. It's been visible all day. Some really neat walking right here, right above the Owl River, on some mini cliffs. So earlier, I was wondering if that was two separate peaks, but as you can see here, it's all one block of rock, but it's split down the middle. Quite dramatic even from this angle. I'm just a few minutes away from the June Valley shelter, so I just wanted to kind of look ahead as the valley bends toward the direction seen here. That's some of the scenery that will be on tap for tomorrow, but who knows if it'll be clear. Other videos and pictures I've seen of these areas that I'm hiking through have been completely fogged and clouded in with hardly anything visible. Just want to do a panoramic 360 as I arrive here at the June Valley shelter, so I can remember this special area and also the beautiful weather and day I was blessed with. So that wraps up day 8 of the trip, and I think this was my second favorite day on trail actually. I think the sunny weather helps a lot, but also just this hike to June Valley is so beautiful and incredible. at least when it's clear out like this and you can see everything. So just really enjoyed it, and don't want to forget this moment here sitting by the Owl River looking at this peak across the way. Good morning, everyone. I've woken up to another freezing cold day here on Baffin Island. I'm sitting here by the Owl River, enjoying some peace and solitude in June Valley. And I have some surprising developments to share with you. So the bear monitor or guard who came along with me to keep me safe from polar bears took ill. He was not feeling well, and that means an evacuation. So that means I'm left in a difficult position. There are 2 days of hiking left. From here in June Valley to the Owl River shelter, and from the Owl River shelter to North Pang shelter. However, I've decided to go ahead and stop my hike here and leave on the helicopter for basically for 4 reasons. And it all has to do with polar bears. So the most likely place in the park to run into a polar bear, if you're going to, is on the very last segment. That segment from Owl River to North Pang. Granted, the odds of running into one are small, but if you're going to run into one, it's probably going to be right there. And then, second, I am hiking all alone now. I would be solo. So that is quite scary to be out there with even a small odds of running into a polar bear. And then third, I am actually doing this hike in the wrong direction. It's actually recommended to hike from north to south to help avoid polar bears in that area, because then you could perhaps see one from the boat. And whereas if you come in from this direction, you're walking down towards them and you wouldn't know until you got there. So that would not be good. And then fourth and finally, I'm not trained to deal with polar bear encounters. I don't have any lethal force with me, and I'm not a frequent visitor to the Arctic. So I think for safety purposes, it's best to go ahead and stop my hike here. And at least I was able to enjoy all the best scenery within the park. The last 2 days do not have the dramatic scenery that we saw on the rest of the park, but it still would have been amazing to see it and complete the route. Still, I'm very happy with how things turned out, everything I got to see, the good weather although it was cold, it had very little rain on me while hiking. So I hope you enjoyed the footage and coming along with me here in the Arctic on Baffin Island. All right, see you later, everyone. Take care.
A snowy owl takes flight over the Owl River with peace and solitude out in June Valley, flying low to the ground, searching for a lemming, catching one with his talons ever so silently, to bring back to the nest hungry owlets to feed. A snowy owl lands on a perch by the Owl River.
helicopter flight out was quite a memorable experience. We spent 35 minutes flying back over the 45 miles of terrain which I had hiked across over the past 8 days. From this high perspective, the views of glaciers, moraines, waterfalls, lakes, and river braids were even more expansive. It was hard not to feel a hint of sadness at missing out on the last 2 days of the route, knowing that I would probably never be back here again. But I was reminded of what a great privilege it had been to be one of only a handful of people in the world who have ever seen this beautiful landscape. And even though it had been constantly cold outside and the wind almost never relented, I had the most amazing time and got to see everything I had dreamed of seeing, especially Mount Thor and Mount Asgard. And with that, my Arctic adventure crossing Baffin Island came to an end.